Hello everyone, welcome to a special episode on Magicka Addict. I have with me DalSifoDiyas, the 2D lead of the Skywind project, and Argyle, the lead writer. Welcome Dal and Argyle. Do you want to say hello to the Elder Scrolls community?
Hi.
Hey everybody, good to be here.
Awesome. For those who don't know, Skywind is an in-development project of the total recreation of the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, built from the ground up in the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim engine. I will leave links in the description so you guys can look them up, and also check out the Skywind playlist on my channel if you're interested in updates. In this video, we chat with Dal and Argyle and discuss 2D development. We also highlight some work done by the 2D team. So let's get into it then. So Dal, do share your history of playing Morrowind and working with the Skywind team.
Oh god, my history of playing Morrowind. I was a wee little child, because I'm now a very old person, so I actually played Morrowind as a wee little child. And I didn't understand what I was doing. I played an English version, I didn't speak English back then, so I just stole every plate and fork I could find in this game, ran around, got killed by Ashlanders a lot, because I never did their quests because I didn't understand what I was doing, and I had a blast. I know, considering that I never knew sincerely till I turned 20. Like, I played it when I was 12. I enjoyed it so much, and when I turned 20, I played it again. It was like, oh my god, this game is so good. Yeah, it was an experience. And I don't know, I just joined Skywind one day because I was like, man, Morrowind are just such good memories, and now I'm here. I've been here for a while. I've been here for 5 years now.
Wow, okay. And what about you, Argyle?
I'm actually I don't know if they say this term in the community, but I'm a Morrozoomer. As contrasted from a Morrow boomer. I got into Morrowind in about 2021. I had been an Elder Scrolls fan previously, and actually I was waiting for Skywind to come out to play Morrowind for the first time because I wasn't enjoying it. So, just proof that Morrowind does actually still hold up on some level. It is still playable, and people born later can enjoy it. Yeah, I love Skywind. I love Morrowind. It's been really fun to be a part of this project. I got in as a voice actor, and then I thought, wow, some of these lines are really difficult to voice act because they were never meant to be read out loud at all. A lot of Morrowind was text-based. So I volunteered to help edit lines and kind of keep the same spirit of them, but make them easier and more conversational for actors to convey, and the rest is history. I'm still here. So 2021 to now, still kicking around.
I love this. I love this aura of fine, I'll do it myself about, man, Skyrim is taking too long. It's very powerful.
I'm one of many. There's a lot of people who just, for the love of the game, are making it themselves.
Yeah, I mean, sincerely, Morrowind is just still so playable, especially with OpenWMU, OpenMW. It's so, you can just play this game even still today. It's amazing.
I don't think I would have got into the game if there was no OpenMW, because I had a bad time with the original engine. But I think OpenMW is a game changer, and the way it's evolving with OpenMW 0.49 with Lua scripting, it's just going to explode. You know, the modding scene is just going to explode. So it's a great time to be a Morrowind enjoyer or a lover, right?
Absolutely.
I've been following you guys for more than 2 years, and I never knew about you guys before 2023. So I'm hooked. I just love what you guys do.
Oh, great.
Just love the passion and the commitment, and you guys are taking your time. I think that's the right approach. And when it comes out, it's going to be an amazing occasion. So congratulations to everybody, all of you in your team, and I think you guys are doing a wonderful job.
Yeah, we also sincerely love your videos. Like, every time you do a video about us, we're always like, yo, new Magicka Addict video dropped. We post it on our channels, watch it. It's always really great.
Yeah, no, like, for real, we appreciate the effort you put into this stuff, and like, you actually do research and give your thoughts over it in a pretty consistent and well-edited fashion. Before, we used to have a lot of people who would like poach our own videos and just like upload them to their channels with like no changes or anything, and that kind of sucked. But once we realized like there was someone following us and like kind of like being like a journalist for modding projects, like it's awesome. It's been really cool to have you around.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate that. So let's get into the discussion then. I think the focus on today's discussion is about the 2D work by Dal and her team. Right, so Argyle, you can chip in whenever you want to say something. So let's get started. So Dal, what is the role of Skywind's 2D team?
So currently I hold the title officially on the Discord, like my name in parentheses. It's Wrestler of Excel sheets, because it's basically what every team lead on this project does. You take care of a lot of Excel sheets just to keep an overview of who's working on what. For me, that's now very low effort because 2D is basically done. There's one single item left to do for the base game, and as I teased before, we are looking towards the DLC, and we will talk about that later, I think. But yeah, generally as a 2D lead, I try my best to offer hopefully good feedback to my artists when they design something. I design work to artists, and I upload, when something is done, I upload it to the Trello. I give feedback to the 3D people which work with our concept arts, and generally try to like keep an eye out for things which might stick out in the game as like not fitting. So all the posters, all the tapestries, all the wax, all the clutter, all of this is made by thousands of people. Or hundreds, something between hundreds and thousands of people. And in the end, all of those things need to fit together. Things which were made over a span of 10 plus years from people with very different skill levels, different cultural backgrounds, different experiences. And it's kind of my job to just go into the game and see, oh, this carpet is wrong. We need to do something about the colors of this carpet. Like, it sounds weird, but very simple things can just take you out of the immersion so quickly. Right. And so basically from the first design steps to the item being implemented into the game, I'm just trying to keep this concise look of the game. So it feels like one actual game made by one project and not by hundreds of people.
Right. So one doubt I had was about the concept art. Does concept art development also part of the 2D development? Or is it a separate department?
No, that's 2D concept art. We also have like 2D artists which are very good in making textures, but they like can't draw them in Photoshop. But then we also have like texture artists which belong to the 3D department because they make like seamless textures for building and stuff like that. So that's something different. But no, the concept art definitely is basically my main job.
So apart from concept art, and you have posters, murals, paintings, tapestries, you said, and clutter items, right? What else?
Generally speaking, like miscellaneous items like a cup all had to get like Dunmer concept art for them to fit the Morrowind experience, right? Like a lot of idea goes into these like cultural ideas. Wow. I'd say also the 2D department has been really nice recently about like adding extra details to things upon request if we have capacity for it. So like for example, I can think of, there's a certain bone mold helm somewhere that is uniquely named but doesn't actually look unique in Morrowind, and 2D was able to add limited like decals onto it so it would be distinct. We have to be kind of careful how much we do that for the sake of texture bloat, but that's another thing off my cuff that I know that 2D is willing to do for us.
Yeah, or we add, for example, if there's a special place, a special rune, a special quest, and there we make special, very unique decals that level design then can place on the walls, and you will find this specific piece of art only in this very specific place. So that's something we also do on top. But yeah, like Argyle said, basically everything that's in the game had a concept art.
Fascinating.
I had book art too. We didn't mention book art.
Book art, yeah. Book
Oh, yeah,
art.
the book art, right?
Yeah.
Right, the book art. Oh my god, yeah, the covers and the art itself, the artworks inside the books. Yeah, that's also done by 2D.
Oh man, I love those book
God.
arts. Yeah. And also the illustrations within the books, right? I saw in some of the streams you have specific illustrations to talk about the story in the book, I guess.
Yep, that's also done by the 2D
Yeah.
team and implemented by 2D team.
Yeah.
Basically, there are things which, in quotations, pull a lot of weight because they add a lot of atmosphere. For example, every single book in the game now has a unique cover. Like every single book has a unique cover.
Right.
Full stop. There are no copies. And all of those were completely done by 2D. Furion, my amazing co-lead, he drew like 90% of those. I did draw a few, but it was mostly Fury. But I
Right.
could just implement all of those. So we didn't have to bother any other department with those. We, as a department, which was nearly done anyway, could just add so much flavor to the game, which was awesome for us. Because it makes such a big difference for the quality of the game when you have so many unique items. And like I said, in quotations, it's cheap because it's only 2D work. And it's a really neat thing to do. So I really enjoyed that process, even though I implemented 200 or 300 book covers, and it kind of drove me crazy sometimes. every single cover and artwork in the game was implemented by me, and it was a lot of work. It was years worth of work.
Okay, so I'm looking at this clutter page. Morrowind has insane clutter like bucket, cloth, spoon,
Yep.
blue glass pot, bottles, bowls. All of these were redone, right, by the 2D team?
It should have been, yeah. I, in quotations, only joined in 2020, right? So there's a chance that in the year 2014, a 3D person was like, I will make this blue bottle now, which I remember from Morrowind. And maybe that blue bottle, because that doesn't have concept art, because the 3D artist was like, I think I can do this without concept art. A blue bottle, I think I can manage this.
We start with Excel sheets. At least
Right.
we do now. So we have like a number of things like that need to be done. Sometimes we have a little extra. I think those usually come from the pre-Excel days. But yeah, so we don't just start drawing. We have like a list of things that need to exist to correspond to their Morrowind counterparts.
Yeah, especially our 3D lead 6 has been very good in keeping track of, okay, what do we actually need? Which things can we potentially use from Skyrim? Do we need our own bucket? Can we use a Skyrim bucket, you know? So he's really been the master of all Excel sheets in that regard, which I really respect because he worked very hard on this Excel sheet. But yeah, this whole Skywind, if you pull back the curtain, Skywind is just a bunch of Excel sheets filled up with 3D items.
Oh no, it's important,
Just
right?
ask our voice actors.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think planning is important. I think I'm glad you have a manager kind of a person who is involved in ensuring that everything is, organized. That's great.
Yeah, that's basically the role of the leads, really. So, like
Right.
I said, to wrestle these Excel sheets and keep
Awesome.
an overview.
All right, 2D team is awesome. Let's talk about few of your creations. The first one, the Dunmer Stronghold Clutter. So for those who don't know, so the Dunmer strongholds were ancient fortresses built before the great houses were consolidated. When we play Morrowind, these strongholds were kind of abandoned in the third era. Let's take a look at your ArtStation link which you sent me. And these are the clutter items for the Dunmer stronghold.
General idea of this item was add clutter which doesn't add any lore. So make it interesting enough and
Yeah.
different enough from the Imperial tables or the Dunmer tables we already have in the game, without forcing any interpretation onto these items. Because
Or my department to write anything.
yeah, with Skywind, or I think with any mod, you always run the risk of adding your own interpretation of things into what you create, and that can lead to. I personally call that fanfication of things. When you have a headcanon about something and you start implementing that into your work. Right, so these items are super distinct from anything we have in the game. We don't use these patterns anywhere else. We don't even use this wood color anywhere else. We really wanted to be this Kaima culture, which this would still be. I think it's still the Velofi people, the Kaima people, which would have used these urns, would have used these tables and stools. We really wanted those to feel like very far removed from all the other cultures we have in the game. And I'm really, for myself as an artist, because I made these, I'm very happy with what I created here. It's not that absolutely unheard of exotic things, but it's just exotic enough for the context of the game, and that made me pretty happy.
Okay, so these are specifically found only in the strongholds. You won't find them elsewhere, right?
Yep.
Right.
Ah, okay. So these urns are different compared to what we see in ancestral tomes, right? They're different.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
They're different.
Okay, so you have separate models for urns and ancestral tome. That's amazing.
Yeah, because we also have a different clutter. We also have different urns for Daedric runes, for example.
Right.
So we have clutter for Daedric runes, we have clutter for Imperials, we have clutter for Dunmer, we have clutter for Dremmer, and now we have clutter also for the Velofi people. So each culture gets their own set of clutter, which then only will be found in the correct context of this culture.
Right.
So if you, for example, find a dark elf who uses Imperial clutter, that has meaning. That means this person works with the Imperium, for example.
Oh, wow. Yeah. He's imperialized.
Yeah. It worked. He got colonized.
We actually have a really developed, I think we might be one of the most, culturally developed projects in modding, in that we have a lot of attention that we do for internal cultures, because that was something that a lot of us really appreciated about Morrowind, was this sort of intercultural interaction between the Empire, the native Dunmer, and then how the native Dunmer self-divide into great houses, or even further divide into Ashlander tribes, and all the different people who have occupied this land, whether you call it Resdane, whether you call it Morrowind, or whatever name it currently exists in, right? So having all these kind of different eras and identities and cultural feels is really important. And you see that in our clothing designs, you see that in our clutter designs. And for example, with these Dunmer strongholds, it's really important that these feel really ancient and like a culture that has long been lost, whether by being forgotten or by simply evolving away for it to accept the tribunal. They are probably most similar to our Daedric set, in that it comes from a similar period of worshiping the three good Daedra, but yet at the same time, it is distinct to give the dungeon its own identity, so you know where you are at a glance if you load up your save, or just contributing to a very specific atmosphere that gives each dungeon its identity. So even though there's sort of a cultural through line, you aren't confused at what point in history you're at, or what location you're in.
Fantastic. All right, so that's about the Dunmer Stronghold clutter. I will share few screenshots of how these clutter items appear in game. So let's take a look. Next is the concept art for the Fire Atronach. It looks amazing, and I had a thought. The Skywind team could have used Skyrim's Flame Atronach and called it a day, but you guys went above and beyond, and you have a new design. So tell me the story about this guy. It looks incredible.
So generally, we could have, of course, used all the atronachs from Skyrim. They're all there. But we decided to at least try to be reminiscent about the Morrowind ones, especially with this Fire Atronach one. I really try to get closer back to the vanilla Morrowind one. We at some point ran into the issue of having too many custom animations that needed to be done, because our animation team was very small for extremely long. We had 2 or 3 people animating and 10 creatures we're waiting for their animations. We're now in the lucky position that our animation team has kind of exploded, and I love it. I love them. So it's always amazing to check our animation channel and see Yagrum Background, for example, run around. Haha. And yeah, the animation team is awesome, but we have a very limited budget on the animation, sadly, still, because it just takes so much time. So with this guy, with our Flame Atronach, what I try to do, because the Flame Atronach in Skyrim dances around a lot, you know, she flies around, she dances around a lot, I try to incorporate that, like merge the Skyrim version with the Morrowind version. And yeah, I hope people like it. I sincerely hope people like it. The team did a lot of crunching on how to do this best, how to have this Morrowind version work with the Skyrim animations, and I think I'm very pleased with the end result. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in my top 5. But yeah, I hope people will also like the end result. And this isn't done in 3D yet, so I can't show any 3D yet. It is being worked on actively,
right.
but it's not done yet.
I love these horns.
It's a mask, yeah. I'm
wow.
Like he did also wear a mask, and he has like these funny God, what's that called in English? Like this trouser-like thing on his shoulders, like his shoulder straps. He had very specific clothes, but of course, if you
mean
go
suspenders?
it's suspenders. Thank you. Yeah, that's the word. Like the suspender-like thing, but I wanted to give him a bit more detail because, of course, now with the new graphics, you can go more into detail. So I just try to, in quotations, upscale the original one, and he has no feet because he's dancing around so much.
Right. So once you finished working on this concept art, next the 2D team has to work on all of these items, and then the 3D team works on the model, and then the animation team gets on in the animation, right? That's how it is?
So within the Skywind organization, the department is called 2D concept art. So the 2D team is essentially the people who make art like this, and they provide samples. And then our 3D artists are totally responsible for creating the textures themselves. So there isn't a separate team of artists who create like layers to like wrap onto stuff. Once the concept art is done in 2D, the actual shape, model, color, and otherwise like detailing of the model is completely done by the 3D artist.
Awesome. Let's move on to the Daedric Ruins exterior concept art. Oh man, I've watched your dev streams and I love how the team has gone above and beyond to diversify the exterior of every Daedric ruin. Like, for example, the Azura Shrine had those epic looking salt columns and waterfalls and all that. I think that all of that is level design work, but I guess it all originates from the concept, right?
So basically, I was in the very lucky position that I was working with our awesome 3D lead Zix, who will hate hearing himself being put on a pedestal, but Zix is just the best guy for creating tile sets because you can give him an idea and he makes this idea into a tile set. So I was very lucky that I could just basically put a mood on paper, and he was able to translate that into tris and quads and makes actual tile sets. So if you go to the other page of my example, you can see general shapes here, general ideas, have all of these very, raised areas, and everything is kind of twisted and nothing is super straight. The shapes are like, I think at some point I marked like, make it kind of human shaped, like this roundness is supposed to look a little bit like a creature, like a human creature standing there. And I obviously very much try to adhere to like the Morrowind feeling of it, this Morrowind standard, because we all remember, I think everyone remembers just the Daedric runes so much from their first playthrough of Morrowind. They were so special, and I just basically try to capture that old feeling of these special places, and I didn't even have to go into super detail because I think Zix just understood immediately what I was trying to do, and he just built this very beautiful tile set we have now. And then Serenity, our another 3D artist, came in and made like the perfect textures. Making the set was, for me at least, a lot of fun because I thought we all were on very much the same page of what we want this to look like.
There are multiple Daedric ruins for specific Daedric princes, right? In Morrowind, you had one for Sheogorath, one for Mehrunes Dagon, and so on, right? Now, concept art for these ruins, are they like shared? Are there like different designs? Like, for example, the Meryl's Dagon will look like this, and then the Sheogorath will look like that. Or is it just a single design?
The idea is, so what you see here is the idea of a tile set. We don't really, like, the concept artists don't really design places. What we design are the pieces which 3D makes, and then level design uses like Lego blocks to make a scene. But we don't really we don't really plan a Daedric rune in advance in 2D. We just give the tools to level design to just do it.
Right, it's up to the level design team, exterior level design, interior level design team to differentiate them, I guess.
The through line here is that this period of Daedra worship was by the Velothi people or the very early Chimer society, and that's sort of the consistent through line. So even though there are multiple Daedric princes, the people building these temples are more or less coming from a shared culture. So even though the level designers are going to create layouts, rooms, interior stories, and other things that reflect their relative prints, 2D's job was to figure out what was the cultural mindset of the people who built this and what was their architectural style. So they needed something that could wear a lot of different hats. And I mean, part of this is because we're coming from Morrowind, which already existed, right? So they use the same Daedric tile set, or I think tile set is actually, interestingly enough, like a Skywind or Skyrim specific term. I think a lot of other video game developers use the term level kit. But these pieces already existed and were kind of an inspiration from what already existed. We didn't have to make it from scratch. So we tried to honor what had came before, but maybe improve upon it. I personally didn't like how the Daedric ruins in Morrowind looked, but I love how we do it in Skywind. Our level designers make a lot of use out of it. But creating all these little pieces is a good resource-efficient way to have a dungeon that fits the broader culture and can be justified appearing in multiple places across the island.
Right. In Morrowind, they were kind of dilapidated and abandoned. I assume we will get the same feel when we approach these ruins, right?
The same feel in different ways. Right. I know a lot of our level designers take different approaches. Some of them feel more like ancient shrines that have been long abandoned. Some of them feel like crumbled ruins where you have no idea what this used to be. And that's intentional. Every level designer kind of has somewhat freedom to decide their own story that's going on there. Of course, we always have to follow what's originally present in Morrowind, but a lot of times Morrowind is kind of quiet about why something is the way that it is, and we have the freedom to kind of reshape it without damaging the source material. So some of them, like this one you're kind of looking at right now, looks more like a structure where people actively worshipped, and other of them will look like they didn't stand the passage of time and they've fallen apart and they're dangerous to set foot in, not because of who inhabits them, but because the entire thing is threatening to collapse upon you like a tomb.
Right, I mean, and we get one example of a destroyed shrine when we play the DalSifoDiyas quest in Morrowind, right? If you guys remember. As you play the quest, you get a new Daedric ruin that appears out of thin air. That'll be amazing to watch in Skyrim. His quest.
Yeah, we can kind of set things in phases when certain flags are triggered by progressing at a point in a quest and after other circumstances in the game are met, where we can enable different things to appear, quote, out of thin air, close quote.
So, Dal, you sent me a couple of screenshots of how these ruins appear in-game, so let's take a look. Next, we move on to Ebony Weapons and Ebony Armor.
That's an interesting one. So, when people see our Ebony weapons for the first time, they will think this does look nothing like the Ebony weapons from Morrowind, which is absolutely true and absolutely on purpose. I mentioned before how like hundreds of people worked on this game, right? And at some point in the development, the decision was made to have the Ebony Armor not be like the Morrowind armor and instead be an interpretation of an Ebony Armor how the people think Dunmer would have an Ebony Armor, because Ebony comes from Morrowind, Vardenfell, and of course this culture would then have an Ebony Armor designed after their own culture, you know. Why would Dunmer design an Ebony Armor to look like an Imperial armor? It doesn't really make sense. So the weapons I designed were made to fit the Ebony Armor in the Dunmer style. And because of that, there are texts in the Daedric writing on there, which the Dunmer use. And all of these are little prayers or you know, I think some phrases like, I designed this years ago. I think it was something like, "God give me power," or I shall smite you in my family's name or something, you know, all of those things.
It's not random letters.
Wow,
It's
really?
not random letters.
Okay.
It's actually not. No. All of those are actual phrases and little prayers, and because the Dunmer are very family oriented, you know.
Right.
Yes, thank you. And so that's first of all. But I do really like the set. I'm really happy with it. I like how it looked in game, and that's why it's on here. But that's why my item 4 and 5 are connected, because we now that we're going further into development, we're more and more running into the issue of, oh no, we now have this Imperial officer, and this Imperial officer in Morrowind is wearing like Ebony Armor. So we have to put him like into the Ebony Armor we do have. Now the Ebony Armor we do have is Dunmer coded. But it's very unlikely that this Imperial officer will actually wear this armor. And my number 5 on the item is actually a world premiere. We have never shown this before. You are the first person to show this actually on your
Yeah,
stream.
Magicka Addict original.
Which one?
Yeah. The Ebony Armor.
Oh, armor. We're going to
Yes,
armor.
thank you.
Yeah, hang on. Before we go to the armor, the fact that we have Ebony throwing star, Ebony dart, even modeled the Ebony arrow, that's great.
Yeah, they're all back. They're all back.
What is this?
The staff. It's the head of the staff. The Ebony staff.
Right.
And on the right, that's the staff.
This is the staff
entirety.
too? Right.
Yep, that is the staff.
Yeah, it's the same head.
Yeah.
It's the same head. I just drew it also at an angle so the 3D person could get a better idea of what part is protruding and how big like this ball is.
Western Ebony armor.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly. So to connect the weapons and the armor, so like I said before, we had the issue of people which work with the Empire or are Imperials wearing Dunmer Ebony Armor. Doesn't really make sense. Doesn't really fit. So after a lot of discussion, we decided to do 2 Ebony Armors in Skyrim. And this is the second one, which I tried to really design after the original Morrowind version.
Right.
As far as I could make it out, because the original version is pretty pixely, you know.
Right.
So I did my best. I did my best to make a very cohesive, very traditional kind of nearly realistic. It's not actually realistic, but pretty close to realistic Western armor for our fans. I hope people will like it. And it's going to be in-game like 98%. The problem is making armor is an insane amount of work.
Right.
Just designing this took me like 3 or 4 months, but that's not the bulk work. The bulk work is actually making this in 3D. Because people might remember from our other streams that we actually do armor like they did in Morrowind, so you can take the pauldrons off, you can take the gloves off, you can take, you know, it's the whole entire system of Morrowind. So of course we need a 3D artist who creates all of these items as single pieces. We need an implementer to implement this armor, and that's a long red tail of work. We really, really want this armor in the game. We kind of need it in quotations for lore reasons, but it is kind of a nice to have. It will to 99% will also be in game, but I will never say 100% because I will not promise it. But very, very, very good, very, very, very good chance that it will be in game. And this armor makes me really proud. I added it to my list mostly because I do wear armor. Like I do own armor. I do LARP, and basically all of my knowledge from armor, like putting armor on myself, putting armor on other people, fighting in armor, I added that to this armor. That's why I said it's relatively realistic, in quotations. Of course, it's still a bit fantasy, so it does fit the other armors. But yeah, I'm pretty pleased with what I created here, and I hope people like it, and I hope it's reminiscent enough of like the more original Morrowind one that people will say, hey, I'm looking forward to use this in game. So long, I'm so sorry.
Absolutely stunning. Yeah, great work. And what is this pouch? Is this a pouch?
Yep, it's a little pouch. That's where you keep your drugs.
That's so cool. I love this chain here. I'm just imagine sitting if you're wearing this at the beginning of the day and taking it off at the end of the day. Wow, that's a process, right? It's so cool.
Yeah,
it's not so bad. You just click it in the menu.
Yeah, that's for us. But
actually, funny trivia. So Argyle visited me IRL. The whole Skywind people are friends now, simply speaking, and I put basically this armor on him IRL because I more or less own the setup, and he did wear a lot of this, and it was very heavy.
wow.
It's like 50 kilograms, right?
Yeah, it was like 50 kilos. The chainmail is insanely heavy.
Heavy armor.
100 pounds for my American brothers and sisters.
Right. So the Morrowind Ebony Armor had a blackish yellow tinge. If you look at screenshots, right?
Yeah, gold, black.
Gold,
basically.
yeah. And the weapons in the concept art, they have a purple tinge. Is that going to be in game too?
So like I said, the ebony weapons will stay closer to our Dunmer armor that we have, and that has like a slight purplish tint.
Right.
I did so in the concept art. It's way more purple than it actually is in game.
Wow.
They're way more grayish, blackish.
All right. So thank you, Dal. You shared some screenshots of how these weapons will appear in game. So let's take a look. So let's get into the posters. Oh, these are so cool. Who decided that, yes, we'll have posters, we'll have Dunmer posters, Imperial propaganda posters all over Skywind? Like, who came up with this idea?
It predates me.
Really?
I'm not sure if they're probably maybe a single person who had like this idea, but I don't know who would have the single idea, because usually our ideas are just made
On
together.
The fly. Right.
It's a lot of brainstorming happening. We don't have a single project lead or anything, and even I, as like the 2D lead, like I said, I wrestle the Excel sheet, but I don't really like strong arm my opinions around usually. So I think it was just probably someone said, hey, wouldn't it be cool to have this? And someone else was like, yeah, we could do this thing, and just developed from there.
No, but it's a fantastic idea, and it adds so much to the world of Skywind, right?
If people watch any of our streams, we basically always show Vivek City off. Our Vivek City looks different from the Morrowind one. Ours looks more like the original concept art was. Every canton is individual. We have like this wall around the harbor area. Yeah, this Fury do this by, I think, overlaying a screenshot of like the world map with cantons, so this is pretty spot on. And everything on the poster is perfectly legible if you can read Daedric, and obviously English. So these are not random letters or anything. This is all accurate language.
Yeah, Argyle, you can understand. You can read Dunmeris, right? Using the Daedric
Absolutely not. I really appreciate that. No,
I was so
Fury can.
impressed by you. Yeah, Fury can. We have a few people on the project who can. I'm okay-ish, but I'm definitely not good. But Fury is fluent. Like
Right.
So
I
I can tell you how it works.
Yeah.
Like I know how it works. At the most general level, it's basically a cipher. So it's not really a lot of the time its own language. It's just English letters. But there's like sort of like a structure of it starts at the top and goes down. So generally, like the red letters in this example, like normally the big letter marks like the start of a new word,
Right.
and you can kind of like roughly translate it in descending order. There is an actual Dunmeri language that we use, which is like a whole other topic, especially in the Ashlands. A lot of the Ashlanders speak indigenous Dunmeri, but for the purposes of like a town like Vivek or like for a poster, typically they're writing in Cyrodiilic, but using the Dunmer alphabet.
Right, I wonder if all of this also should be in Dunmeris. Why was this in Cyrodiilic?
No, it's an imperial poster. It's to help foreigners get around, which is another great bit of world building. So that's what the imperial crest in the bottom right corner is for.
Wow. Oh yeah, so thoughtful. Awesome. Welcome to the Holy City of Vivek, Imperials. All right. So next we have these posters. You have a bunch of posters here. A fossil, Daedric. No, what is this? I don't know what that is. And
it's an Alet, I think.
Alet.
Yeah, that's usually an Alet, yeah.
And then you have the planets. Ooh.
So all of these, in quotations, harbours back again to what we talked about in the introduction. 2D in very big quotations, because we're blessed with Furion, who can just do these things.
Wow.
Is cheap. Like, this is, in quotations, cheap clutter. No 3D artist, no big implementation.
Right.
Was needed to do this, because Furion is such an amazing artist, he can draw these things, and Level D Design loves to place these. Because they're so unique, they enrich every place, You have a mage, or an alchemist, you give them these very nice posters, and immediately the whole place just feels so much more lived in, the world feels lived in, and it's great for culture differentiation, Dunmer culture, imperial culture, and it's great for the atmosphere. And it's kind of funny, just as a side note. So Furion is my co-lead on Skywind, and he's amazing. I love him. And he also is basically one of the lead design. I don't think he's the lead actually, but he is one of the main designers on Skyblivion. He also works on Skyblivion.
Wow.
And it's kind of funny if you check out the Skyblivion work, or Furion did the Skyblivion loading screens and the Skywind loading screens, because he's absolutely the best. For our Imperial posters, he uses the Imperial style from Skyblivion. So it's just so very Imperial what he does, because he's so familiar with both styles, and it fits so perfectly, because it's just so very distinct between what an Imperial would draw and what a Dark Elf would draw. It's really so good to have him.
Right.
No, it's so important to, like, I think I said earlier in the interview that I think we really have one of the best simulations of cultures and cultural mixing and interaction, and stuff like this totally proves it. I mean, the art style of what a local Dunmer would do and how they write versus the imperial occupation. I mean, it's everywhere, and it's important because that defines the main conflict and themes of the game. So everywhere you look, that's there. And I mean, it helps too that we have great foundations. Everything that Douglas Goodall, Mark Nelson, Michael Kirkbride, Ken Rolston did to set up this game, and it's really great lore. I mean, we have just been able to take what they've done and really run with it and help bring this world to life. And it's just so impressive how much it just feels alive, and there's so many different histories intersecting in this game.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Another very quick side note, Fury for Inktober a few years ago did the 36 Lessons of Vivek, by hand in ink, and Michael Kirkbride purchased his prints because he loved him so much.
Really?
Yeah, his work is so impressive. I'm so happy. Just Skywind is so elevated because of his art. I'm sorry that we're buttering up Fury so on everyone on the Skyrim project. Is awesome. We love all of you. Every enough measure is awesome on the team.
Yes.
But yeah, Fury's work is just incredible.
Incredible work by everybody in the 2D team. I love all the small touches and attention to detail. And thank you, Dal, for sharing this. So what's the 2D team up to now? And what are the plans for the rest of 2025?
It's actually good to have Argyle here now, because Argyle very spontaneously joined this interview. So Skywind has recently decided to very carefully start working on the Blood Moon DLC, with a lot of asterisks and parentheses involved. basically the Skyrim 2D team is kind of done. We add flavor. We have one single more item to do, but there really isn't much to do for us anymore. So we started spreading our, fingers, eyes, and papers out towards the DLCs, which I immediately want to say we will 100% publish Skywind without the DLCs. 100%.
Right.
No chance we will wait for the DLCs to be done. But the team currently is motivated to continue working beyond base game. And Argyle, I think, can also add more to that.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess the way that I'd put this is that 2D was the first department to finish eating their vegetables, right? So they got all of the base game stuff required, because in order for Skywind to launch, we are going to have everything that Morrowind had, and that is just non-negotiable. So all the base game content. We are not going to let a single 3D artist, animator, level designer, anything touch DLC until everything has been finished for the base game, because that's the only way this is really going to work, right? We are very mindful of scope creep here at Skywind. We've learned a lot of lessons along the way. We've been around for a long time, and so I don't want anyone to think that we're really getting off the rails here. It's more so that 2D and now writing have pretty much wrapped up all of their huge and small tasks, and it's just about being resource efficient, and we still have good people hanging around, and if we don't give them anything to do, they're not going to hang around. They're going to go do other stuff with their talents. Right. So it's important to kind of start cautiously making baby steps into pre-development and looking into things, and just making use of what we have while we have it, and doing so in a way that isn't going to radically spin out of control. Like, for instance, like the writing department, like I can tell you right now, like, we're not going to like redesign Blood Moon from the ground up, okay? Like, no one wants that. No one wants to play our fan fiction of Blood Moon. If there are spaces where we can make things a little better, we'll look at it, we'll consider it if there's like anything for flow, but we're not planning to just revise the story ad nauseum, because ultimately the game we're remaking is the game. It's out there. People played Morrowind, they like Morrowind, and there are some things that grind on us, but not everything grinds on everyone in the same way. And so we don't want to start making these huge, bold promises about, oh, we're going to fix this or we're going to fix that. Because sometimes when you say stuff like that, you go overboard and you create new problems. So it's a very slow approach from us, and really all of our effort is staying with the base game right now, with a little bit of fun adventures into Blood Moon.
Right. Yeah, so it's very important that you clarified that the 2D team is complete. They can move on to the DLC, but everybody else is working on base game. I'm so happy that Skywind Blood Moon DLC is confirmed. Thank you. That's all I had today, guys, and thank you so much for sharing your work, and thank you, Dal and Argyle, for taking the time to do this.
Please, everyone, if you have, sometimes you sit there and you're like, man, I'm doom scrolling all day. If only my fingers could do anything else but doom scroll on my phone. I have good news. You could be doing nav mesh for Skywind, or quality assurance for Skywind, or file cutting for Skywind. Even if beyond owning a laptop, you have nothing else on yourself, that's enough to work on Skywind. Good news. So please absolutely consider applying, because we can't do this alone, in quotations. Like, we still need new blood. We need people to continue finishing Skywind. We are sincerely getting there. Like, we have done so much work in the past years, and we would like to keep the train going, and we need to burn more people in the fire to keep the train going. So please, be the coal we need to keep this train chugging.
Yeah, Skywind is made by you, basically. We are all Skywind fans who joined Skywind to make it done. We see a lot in the community, there's sort of this expectation of patience, and if we just sit around and wait, we let the devs do their thing. Skywind will be here and it will be awesome. But the truth is, Skywind is only awesome because awesome people are working on it, like everyone who's listening to this interview. Some people think they need to be a coder to join. That's not true. We have a lot of different disciplines. And, sometimes we don't even know how someone can help us, right? Certain people with different knowledge have come and joined and made our processes so much better over the years. And I mean, we just really are a community effort from the ground up. We are Elder Scrolls fans, and we do this for our love for Morrowind. So if that sounds like you, come to our Discord and poke around. You might just be able to make Skywind real.
Awesome. Thank you, Dal and Argyle, for taking the time to do this. Alright guys, that was the discussion with the 2D lead of Skywind. And if you have any questions for Dal, do write them in the comments below. I shall get them answered for you. I shall see you soon for another Skywind update. May Vivek Almalexian Sotsasil watch over you.